Hello, everybody who's joining us so far. Oh, that was awesome. I was like, oh no, we have 0, but we actually have 6. So welcome to Thursday night's Chillax and Chat with special guest, Miss Paranormal Pixie. Lotus girl, excited for some chill time. I bet you are. I saved your voice message, but I did not listen to it yet. I've been working on that side project like nonstop, but it's a super incredible opportunity that I'm not really allowed to talk about, but it is pretty cool, and it is happening. Pam Smith, I'm sorry to see you go, honey. Hopefully you catch us on the rerun or see us Wednesday night. Monday, I'll have the pre-recorded Nut Slap. Oh, they counted me and Ghost Dragons. And Edna, hi. Blue Crossroads, hey. Perfect Imperfection, hello. So what we wanted to do tonight is myself and Ghost Dragons, we want to start bringing some of you guys on and just getting to know you guys and talking to you guys, because we feel like we know you guys so well as far as in chat. But we want to know who you are, where you're from, what you like to do. It doesn't matter. We really want to connect with you guys. And aside from a cross-country trip, how else could we really do that besides bringing you guys on? Whether it's to discuss the paranormal, supernatural, extraterrestrial, otherworldly, discuss you. We don't care. We just want to see your faces, or at the very least hear your voices. So if you're interested in coming on one of these Chillax and Chat shows, either text me or Steven, or email one of us. You guys know my email. Most of you have my number. If not, it'll be in the chat by the end. I think everyone in here definitely has one or the other. So with that being said, we were just having an amazing conversation backstage, and I wish that we had caught it, but I'm going to end up bringing it back in sometime during this stream. Depending how the stream goes, we'll go until 10 o'clock, and if not, we'll end around 9:15-ish, because I do have Monday's video to record. But if we're all, there's a bunch of people here and you're all having a good time and I don't get too tired, we should just blow right through it. This is going to be really fun. And I'm really excited to have Miss Lara, Miss Paranormal Pixie on. Let me bring in Steven. Andrew and Gnomes, what is up? And then we'll bring in Lara, and we'll get to know about her and what she's about. Yes, Eastern time. Sorry, I forget that I don't live in the center of the universe, okay? It's not revolving. You guys don't see it revolving around Gemma? What's going on with that? Gemma vision. All right, let me move you out and move me back in. Hold on one second.
I know that picture.
I don't know why I did that. The good old switcheroo. Yeah, I hope it's not the C word.
Oh, she got the whole picture in so they can see the dragon.
Yeah, but then it might be a stripe. I don't know. I didn't see anything on it. That usually if there's like a name printed on it, then I know don't use it. So don't even want to go there.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's bring in Miss Lara.
Lara. Miss Pixie.
Hi, hello, Miss beautiful soul.
Hi, sweetheart. Hi, Ghost Dragon.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I'm just a guy in a corner watching chat, making sure people behave. Use caps when you ask questions.
Yeah.
You can beat my eyes.
I forgot about that. So, guys, Miss Lara is not able to see much of the chat, if any. So what we're going to do, if you guys have questions, write them in capital letters for us, and one of us will relay them. We'll put them on the screen, and then we'll relay them to Lara. Yeah, it is so great to see her, right? Lotus Girl, that's what I said. I said, I see you, just like with all you guys, but I don't see you. And I've seen pictures, but I connect with someone through like a video like this, and your energy so much more than just looking at a small picture or even a Facebook picture, because you're there, you're moving, your energy's there, your aura is there. So yes, Nutslap, I can see that. Good question. So Lara, why don't we start with you telling us like whatever you're comfortable with. I don't know. Where you're from. And just tell us about yourself, how you found this community, or if you know what your light worker mission is, or anything that comes to mind. You've got the floor.
Okay. Well, of course, a lot of you know I go by Paranormal Pixie Lara Sandling Bennett on Facebook and whatnot. I live in Los Alamos, New Mexico. We're in the mountains, northern New Mexico, above Santa Fe. And now I'll warn you, I stutter. And so you'll notice my hand will go up like this when I start to stutter. It's become a habit so that the person I'm speaking to knows that I'm still trying to say something, but I'm having trouble getting the words out. And it's an effect of having fibromyalgia. Between the fibromyalgia itself and then the medications I have to take for it, it screws with the brain neurology somewhat. It's actually helped in a lot of ways, though, for me to be able to understand the human brain side of the spiritual world, if you will. I grew up in a family with three other women in the household. I was lucky. We had 4 generations in one house as I was growing up that all had these kinds of gifts of either clairvoyance, telepathy, um, claircognizance, and so on. But we didn't really talk about it in that format. Um, the family, if you will, was from more of a Baptist kind of background, but closet Baptist, if you will, because they didn't really go to church much. And it was an everyday occurrence for things to happen, like my grandmother to realize when she's starting to make dinner, oh, we're out of bread. I need to call so and so for a loaf of bread. And then my mom would come home with a loaf of bread. Her brother, my uncle, would come home with a loaf of bread, and I'd come home with a loaf of bread without having had any conversation on the subject. Just the thought would get pushed out to us because we were so connected that, you know, we heard what she needed. Um, at least, you know, a weekly occurrence was back then, of course, old rotary telephones. I'd go to pick up the phone to call my mom. And if you ever used a rotary phone, you will have had this happen at least once, I guarantee. That you pick up that phone and there's no sound on the other end. And you say, hello? And the person you were trying to call is on the other end going, hello? Oh my God. Yeah. Because they were having the same thought at the same time. And yeah, so I grew up with a lot of that. And then with my mom being single mom, um, for her own personal reasons, I won't go into that. But she was very into sci-fi and fantasy and Star Trek. I was a Star Trek
Nice.
kid, 100% Star Trek kid.
Trekkie.
By the time I was, tall enough to run around, she was dressing me in whatever costume I said I wanted, and we were going to conventions and all of that kind of stuff. Um, so I also got to appreciate the sci-fi and technical possibility side of what makes up our world. Everything from becoming a big fan of, like Carl Sagan and Stephen Hawking and people like that. Um, and I kind of got pulled into this community when the pandemic hit, being up here in the mountains, being in a scientific community. Now, mind you, and I'll circle back to this in a minute, but being in a scientific community and already not having hardly anyone to talk to that felt comfortable talking about the paranormal, the supernatural, UFOs, Bigfoot, you name it. Okay. I got online and saw somebody cross posted something from Instagram over onto Facebook because I'd never gotten onto Instagram before. And so I went down that rabbit hole and wound up finding some very good friends and various people in the community who surprised me by apparently they'd seen my name in a couple of chat rooms, came over, followed me on Instagram, and that's how I wound up finding my way all the way over to Spaced Out Radio and finding you, Gemma.
I was going to say that
and
is
I'm
what struck
so
me about
happy I
you.
did.
The Pixie, because I just
Yeah.
written the book about the Fae, my first book. So when I saw Paranormal Pixie, I'll tell you what my first thought was. I wish I had chosen that name. Because at that time I was, known as kind of like the resident Fae expert, kind of like people would come to
Sure.
me and ask me the questions. And I was like, man, that is such a cool name. And then I just saw
Aw.
you everywhere. And I'm always grateful for that show because I met so many wonderful people behind the scenes and in the chat. So yes, I do
Oh,
know
yeah.
that is where I first came to know you, because I will never forget when I saw that name. Yep.
Yeah, and I've had the nickname Pixie since I was, 8 years old.
Mine was
Um,
Tinkerbell for most of my 20s because my
oh
nose.
God, I love Tinkerbell. I love
Little
Tinkerbell.
tink tink.
Yeah, me and my best friend up here, she and I are both still big Tinkerbell fans. But yeah, friend of the family, first time they met me, I'm not even 5 feet tall. I'm 4'11" if I
Oh
think
my gosh,
really
you are like a little
really
pixie.
proud. Yeah, if I puff up and I think really proud, I'm 4'11".
Oh my gosh.
And so yeah, the name stuck, a term of endearment. And so all my friends call me Pixie. And when I first got on the Facebook, Instagram, and then got onto the YouTube channels, it was like I used my regular name, and I thought, I could think of something fun. Okay, what am I into? Paranormal Pixie. There we go. And I
That's
left the
awesome.
Laura tag at the end so that since the first 3 months I'd been using my full name,
So they'd
that people would recognize me. And I just left it, and that way if people like calling me Pixie, they can do that. If they'd rather call me Laura, they can.
Some mixture of
they can
both.
do
Of
that.
all. Sometimes I'm like, hey, Paranormal. What's your
Dave,
name?
Dave Scott, he calls me Pixie Laura, and
There you
that's fine. What's the saying? Don't call me late for dinner.
I always say, people always call me by my last name, which is a first name, and they'll be like, Kelly, come here, Kelly. And I'm just like, sometimes I'll respond, and sometimes like I'll be in one of my moods and it'll be annoying. But when they say, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm like, do you have any idea? Like, I grew up thinking that was my name. Like, people just, especially like if you go to a doctor, they just glance. So that's what I always say. Hey, I've been called a lot worse than my own last name. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're gonna, I'm taking notes in like the private chat because I didn't think to bring a notebook, but I knew that
Okay, honey.
some things that you were going to say, I was going to want to comment on. So I just wanted to say, I wrote, it's the same, not talking about abilities throughout generations. And I think mine come from both sides, but it was never talked about. But my mom, she wasn't into science fiction, but she still is known as the queen of horror. Like, she's Miss Horror. She has every single shirt, every single VHS tape. She has over like 4,000 horror movie VHS tapes, from like Attack of the Giant Woman to like the really scary stuff, right? So I grew up with,
she'd love my shelves.
She probably would. It was in like the 80s, where like the really good, the Jasons and the Freddys and all that.
Oh,
so
the juicy stuff. Some of the best Stephen King came out during that time.
My niece wanted Michael Myers on her birthday cake when she was 4 years old. They were like, what do you want in your birthday cake? You want Blue's Clues? She's like, I want Michael. And we're like, who's Mike? We're like looking at like the Disney characters. She's like, Michael, and we're like, oh my gosh, she's talking about Michael Myers.
Oh, that's so funny.
So I get it. And, the lisp and the stutter. My sister has fibromyalgia. I've had a lisp my whole life. That does come out a lot of the time when I'm reading, or like the stutter that just came out when I was trying to say something. So I totally get that. I understand it. And you can't tell really, but it was nice of you to let us know. I speak sign language, so usually when someone's hand starts going up, I'm like trying to be like,
you start paying attention.
Start paying attention to it. But
Well,
I
and
just,
you'll see me occasionally use sign language.
oh, that's
My
awesome.
girlfriend Diana is legally deaf. She's got 18% hearing in her left ear and 12% hearing in her right ear.
See,
And
I
when her
just love
hearing
that language.
started going, I started learning sign language because I'll be damned if I'm not going to be able to talk to my best friend.
There you go. And I love that. And in high school, it started for me. I had a very small high school. The town was 1 square mile. So if we didn't transport hard of hearing and deaf kids into our high school, we wouldn't have had one. So they came from all over the
Yeah.
place. They had a deaf program. So as an elective, we were allowed to learn sign language or Spanish or Italian. And I was like, this is so cool. And I somehow retained the entire thing. Now it's harder for me when someone signs to me, but I sign songs in my head. Like I still do. I guess that's why I retained it. But I definitely thought that was interesting to just talk about how like it just wasn't spoken about. And I think that's where my significant others, and I don't want to talk too much about him, but it's worth mentioning. You and I were talking, I was talking about how I figured out that he might be actually scared of what he thinks I'm doing when I label myself a Christian witch, when the word witch comes out,
Right.
or when he looks at my altar. It never occurred to me because to me it's coming from someplace so light and so good, but that's someone
Hmm.
who doesn't believe in any of it, who's so closed off. I think that if he did experience something, he probably wouldn't notice. You have you ever met someone
Or
like
it
that?
would
Not that
freak
many
him
people
the
like
F
that.
out. Yeah.
There aren't that many that are. We're talking about Dead Files. Steve Dishavi, he is so
Ah,
closed. Amy even said it. You can. I love him, but if something paranormal were to happen, it's almost like it wouldn't be
yeah,
able
we
to
go right over
stick
him.
because it wouldn't
Yeah.
be able to take root because the person is so closed off. So it didn't occur to me, but
Yeah.
that's a good way to kind of segue into what we're talking about behind the scenes. And I want everyone to hear kind of what you had to say. Guys, you guys know this because you're our friends and you know us. But anyone listening afterwards, it's not a religious debate or anything. It's just our take on spirituality, right? And some elements to it. So just so you guys know, be respectful in the comments to yourselves, to our guest, and to others as well. So that not talking about it for probably centuries. I mean, since the witch trials, right? All the way through to like really recently, there were witches and there were people like us. There were Wiccans and there were Christian witches, all different types of spiritual healers and helpers and clairvoyants and mediums who were the way that we are and who would say, I'm a witch, but you'd be like, that very, very unique. I call them the Phoebe people because they're like Phoebe from Friends, just like so out there and out of the ordinary. Everyone's like, oh, that's just Phoebe. Like we were kind of those people in the background of society, saying it loud and clear for our family and friends to hear, but not letting anyone publicly know. And now all of a sudden, it is becoming acceptable again. And I got on YouTube and during the pandemic as well because I was lonely and I was bored, and I had no idea it was going to take me to here. May will be 3 years, and man, have I come so far with this. And I have more friends now than I think I've ever had in my life, like genuine people that I connect with and care about, and who are allowing me to use my gifts to help them and who are helping me with theirs. But if you want, you can talk about whatever you want. But I think that it would be interesting to hear. Um, do you think like I mean, I guess I'm asking, do you agree that like there was a whole 3 centuries where we didn't talk about it? And now it's kind of like there's this reattached stigma to women and men who are like, hey, I'm a witch. What does witch mean to you? What does being a witch mean to Lara?
Yeah. So, growing up, I want to say it wasn't until I was around 10 or 11 years old that my mother really kind of opened up to the idea of the identity of witch. I mean, the description of a witch in modern terms fit the way we lived our everyday lives. Reverence for earth and nature, strong belief in spirituality, um, a deep understanding or desire to understand the paranormal, which is simply what is above normal, what's beyond normal.
Paranormal. Can't
Those
explain.
types of things.
Like
Herbalism,
supernatural, you know?
natural healings, exactly. And so, growing up in that manner, um, for the longest time, that was how I identified myself, was as a witch, as those practices laid out.
Which are what?
So,
I want to
celebrating
clarify for some people
yeah,
what
oh
you
sure.
feel the practicing of being a witch is. Take your time, honey.
Yeah, no, I just had to readjust. So following the rituals of the seasons, for instance, celebrating the winter and summer solstice as, the coming in of the new season, good wishes for harvest, good wishes for life in general, or the bringing in of the harvest, planting of seeds, at Imbolc and things like that. Excuse me. And of course, I've been working on my throat chakra. And so when I start speaking, every so often, I get this crumble crunch in my throat that I
You
have to
take your
work
time,
through
Mama.
because apparently I'm saying something that needs to be said.
Mm-hmm.
So, celebrating these different holidays, and I highly, highly recommend anybody that's interested in understanding more to, it's very easy to go online and look up what are pagan holidays, what are witch holidays, and it'll talk about how they're around love, life, earth, spirit, death, and rebirth, and celebrating all of those things, celebrating the human existence. A lot of it for me in my household was working with my natural psychic abilities and not being afraid of them. Claircognizance, clairvoyance, um, are my two main gifts, but
I'm
I
sorry.
have all of them.
I'm sorry. Could you just repeat that one more time? I just want to let everyone know the background noise. That's Pops TV. I hope it doesn't disturb anyone too much, but I didn't catch what you said your main two gifts were, and that's something I really am
So,
interested in.
okay, so claircognizance,
Okay.
clear knowing, okay, and clairvoyance, which is clear seeing.
Yep.
So, I can break those down a little bit. I mean, clear knowing is exactly that. It's when you walk into a room and an argument has just finished, but there was an argument in that room. Without even hearing a word that has just
I
taken
could
place.
see, and it's
That's
interesting because
that's
I call
claircognizance.
that being a psychic knower. So if I say to a client, okay, you have to bring in a
Exactly.
priest, you have to bring in a chaos magician, you need a psychic knower. That's a good way
Right.
of putting it, actually. It
Yeah.
is the same thing. It's just what you call it. And I also have that
Exactly.
ability.
And so backtrack real quick. One of the ladies that I'm studying with and have been for about a year and a half now, I bet you'll recognize her name, Sarah Lemos.
Sure do. Sure
Yeah,
do.
she did Ghosts of Morgan City.
Mm-hmm.
She's done,
Which was
oh,
fantastic, by the
what
way.
was that most recent one she just did? I lose the name of it all the time. But she's done a number of TV specials, but her main thing that she does is she teaches. She teaches about being a psychic, being a medium, understanding your gifts, understanding your path as a light worker, how to follow those spiritual gifts and honor them in yourself and in others. And so she even, when she's going through the lessons, will say, okay, what is claircognizance or clear knowing,
That's awesome.
clear seeing? Because a lot of people don't understand one term, but they'll understand the other.
Right. Like
Or they've only
clairaudience,
heard one or
there's
the
so
other.
many clairs. And if you're not in the community, especially, people are like, my dad
Right.
calls it mumbo jumbo because he hasn't taken the time to understand it. He doesn't
Right.
have abilities like I do, like we do. But if I were to be able to ever sit him down and say, Daddy, this is what I can do. This is most likely why I can do it. And here's a very simple explanation. I think that would be much
Yeah.
better than his daughter being a witch who's a psychic medium. You know what I mean? Like, I hang out with dead
Right.
people all day long.
Yeah.
I love them. I never want them to go away. And that freaks some people out.
It does. Yeah, absolutely it does. So like I say, with the claircognizance, the clear knowing, then having clairvoyant possibility. Now I can't talk.
Take your time, honey. Take your time. You're doing perfectly.
Clairvoyant abilities. I kept trying to say possibilities, so apparently somebody's trying to tell me something. It's clear seeing. Now, some people don't realize that these things aren't just physical. Okay, so when I say I'm clairvoyant, or I have the ability of clear seeing, I see with my mind's eye.
Okay.
So, for instance, we were doing practice readings last night, and the photograph that she's given us to work with, when I looked at the photograph, I saw in my mind's eye, as though it were my own memory, that space and what had happened in that space.
Oh,
But it
so
was
good.
as though it was if I closed my eyes, it would almost be like a slideshow of photographs.
I know it well. I know it well.
Not quite a film, though I have had the 3D film playing through the head. But it was like little snippets of time. Okay, here's this, and for me, what I saw, it was a pond. In the photograph, there was a pond, there was corn behind it, and I could see the little girl leaning down at the water's edge, and the overwhelming feeling, which is being an empath, I will get the feeling as well. And I could feel the sadness and that she drowned. And I could describe to you, I could even draw you a sketch of what she looked like, how old she was. But that's how I received this information. And trying to find a way to help people understand that, one, this is normal. This is not paranormal. Everybody can do it to a varying degree.
I agree.
They just tend to brush it off.
Excellent point.
They tend to say, oh, that was just coincidence, or oh, that was just an idea in my head. And part of what Sarah teaches is how to help people learn to tell the difference between, is that an idea that just popped into my head, or is that a message or information that we're receiving? Because, I mean, let's face it, if you go science side, it's all, we're walking batteries. We are literally walking batteries. We are receivers, just like a radio, for information. And you've said it 100 times, if not once, that's exactly what our everyday life is like.
Yeah.
And so think of it like as being able to ride a bicycle. You're not necessarily born able to get on that bicycle and ride, but some people have an easier job learning to ride that bicycle than others.
And most of us are born with the ability to learn things. It's, you're explaining it so much better than I usually can. And that's because I think I've just spent my life trying not to talk about it. So when I hear you say things, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, yes, yes. The difference between seeing in your mind's eye and seeing with your actual eyes, depending what I'm doing, I could do one or the other, but it is very
Mm-hmm.
different. It's a very different experience.
It
Um,
is.
it's, actually when it's in my mind's eye, aside from when I'm dealing with angels or a spirit guide, but when it's just spirit or when it's just connecting to someone's energy, my mind's eye gives me feeling throughout my entire body.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and when I
Oh
see
yeah.
it with my
Definitely.
eyes, I may get a snippet of a feeling or something, a chill or whatever. But when I see it with my mind's eye, believe it or not, it's much more real to me and I'm much more there than
Mm-hmm.
when I'm seeing, like on Wednesday night when I'm looking over here and I've got this and I've got that, because it's so much easier, I guess, to focus on it with eyes closed, if that makes sense. Um,
You go
but you
within
are
the
dead
self.
on. You're
Yeah.
right on with that.
Yeah. You go in within. You go within the self. You go inside your mind, inside your thoughts. Just like if you were reading a book to yourself,
Yes.
and when you read that book, and the husband walks by, you don't hear him. You're able to focus in on that information that's in front of you. It works the same way. It really does. It's all um, neuroscience in how the brain is wired and trying to get people to understand that part of it and not turn around and say, "Oh my God, you're going to be damned.
She's a witch.
You're."
You're going to hell, And we were talking about this beforehand. Again, it's not
It's
a religious
frustrating.
statement. Hell is
Yeah.
a state of mind. Even when you cross over, guys, and I try to explain this to you, like, listen, you don't have
Yep.
to believe in my God. You don't have to believe in any God. You can believe in just your own higher self as your higher power. It doesn't matter to me. But when you're going to pass and when your mind finally comes to term with it, or your soul, I should say, because your soul catches on way before your mind does. Like, I've had higher selves of people I know come and say, hey, I'm preparing to go now. You know,
Hmm.
go speak to me and let me, I never did it. I'm waiting for it to happen again so I can actually do that because I was afraid. But it's like, if you pass on thinking that you're going to be in hell, if you have that state of mind, unfortunately, it's not really that you're going to like the fire and brimstone Christian Catholic hell,
No.
but you will be in a place of darkness and non-advancement, and you will be alone regardless of how many people are around you. And I just want to give a quick example. Someone explained this that had a near-death experience, and they explained it so well. It
Sure.
has stuck with me for years. So this woman said she tried to take her own life. She was going through depression. And where she went, she said, was hell. It's true. I can't say the S word, but when you try to take your own life, you go to hell. And I wanted to reach out and contact her and tell her, no, no, no. She missed the point of her own experience. So
Hmm.
she was there, and there were, a sea of other people, and everyone was wandering aimlessly. And she kept trying to get everyone else's attention, but nobody would pay attention to her. Everyone's head was cast down, and she was the only one kind of cognizant of like, hey, where am I? What's going on? She was trying to go like this to the guy next to her. It was an elderly man. He was looking at the ground, mumbling, still had his cane and his little, page boy hat. And she's like, where's Jesus? And as soon as she said that, a tiny bit of light shone through and a tiny bit of recognition went on the old man's face that something might be happening around him. The more
Hmm.
she started thinking of Jesus and God, because these were her deities and teachers and healers when she was alive. That doesn't
Right.
mean that they're the only ones, and I'm saying that you have to believe this, but because that was what she believed in when she was alive, then she started saying the Lord's Prayer. And the
Hmm.
more she prayed and the more she thought of Jesus and God, the more light shone in until finally Jesus was there.
Hmm.
Why? Because she went to her death thinking that because of the way she died, she was going to end up in a place of darkness or hell.
Yeah.
And as soon as she remembered the light and remembered the spirit and remembered her gods, they came and protected her and took her out. And that's kind of what it's
Yeah.
like. That's why I always tell you guys, always be positive. Do not, fear death. Don't ever fear that your loved one is someplace other than paradise and eternity. And those are really for lack of better words, right? I mean, there's
Right.
really no way to explain the other side. Even I
What?
can be looking at it right now and I still would not be able to explain to you what it looks like because it's different for everyone, but it's the same
Yeah.
place. And that's where the contradictions we were talking about start to come in. And that's where the naysayers and skeptics are like, oh, yeah, but you just said, I'm human. I only am working with a human mind. You know what I mean? I'm not working at full capacity. None of us are.
Yeah, and that's it. It's a visual perception, physical perception of what we are beyond our physical body.
Yep.
I mean, one of the things that set me apart and made me the quote freak when I was a kid was always having the sense that, and when I say childhood, I mean like 5 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, that what we walk around in is not us. It's our vessel. It is what we are inside of to experience life and the world around us and emotion and physical touch. Our energy does not cease to exist when the body does. And so that consciousness is what continues, and we create our own torture. We get lost in the interim, and whether it's through passage of time or through waiting for a connection, like you said with the woman and the realization that, oh, I just need to remember what I was taught to find my place
It's
in the
that
universe.
soul memory. Instead of having the human memory, the soul takes over. And guys, I don't want you to debate. I love you all. Some of you believe that there's a loving creator. Some of you believe that there's absolutely nothing but maybe the universe, but we're all human beings. And love, guys, at the end of the day, if the only thing that, thank you, Stephen was going to say the same thing. If the only thing that you guys take away from any of this is that love is the key. It does not matter how others treat you. Now, within our human bounds, we're naturally going to get frustrated or angry. But it's what you do with that, regardless of how the other person is treating you. That's grace, and that's your soul growing. Let their soul do what their soul's doing, and help them if you can, pray for them if you pray, and just love them from afar. That is one of the biggest life lessons I think we're all here to learn, not just light workers, but light workers specifically, because I think once we learn that lesson, once I learned that lesson, is when I was able to start really trying to reach out to you guys and help you guys and let you guys help me as well, and not be this. I mean, if I've already taken it down, but if you guys see my first video, hello, I'm Gemma Jade. I didn't know what to say. I was stuttering, stumbling, sputtering. I was like, nobody's ever gonna want, it's just amazing. I might put it public for like 24 hours so you guys can see the difference between me then and me now. And even coming
I did watch your crew.
People are like, why do you always have to talk about recovery? And I'm like, well, one thing, I don't always talk about recovery, but the reason I recover so loudly is because there are still so many, my father included, who are suffering silently. That's love, guys. The lesson is love. I mean, I don't know how else to say it.
Unconditional love.
When we learn that, our spirits just soar and everything seems to go right, because it's that connection. It's not seeming to, it is, because you're learning to love unconditionally. Everyone, everything. Lara, you might know what this means, and I mentioned it once before. I have no earth at all in my birth chart. None. So the woods for me are like eek, and like critters for me are like ah. But since I've come into this line of work, or since I've come into this community, this place in my life, this state of being, luckily I have it in my 2nd and 11th house, because now I'm forcing myself out there and I'm really becoming a well-rounded individual, whereas I never understood why I wasn't very grounded, why I'd fly off the handle in a second, why I hated going outside at all. My mom used to call me the vampire because I never left the house because it was like sunlight. I don't have any earth, and your chart has it's such a big deal, guys. If you learn about your birth chart, Cafe Astrology has a free one, and they don't only give you the chart. They give the full explanations. That's why I don't really do
still have mine?
I do. I have it starred, and they're so accurate, so on point. And the more research you
I'm
do,
shocked.
the more you learn of unconditional love for yourself and everything and everyone to the best of your human capacity. It doesn't mean being perfect. Be kind. You hit the nail on the head. And I always say love is an action word. Love
Yes.
is something you do.
Agape.
Right. It's
Yeah.
not something I mean, it could be something you feel, but love is an action word. It's a verb. It's something you do. And Be Kind said, love is not only an emotion. It is a living entity that exists within the white light and healing musical tones of the beyond. And absolutely, I'm sorry to have interrupted, but I just need everyone to know it's just about love. Like, if you guys need my help,
Yeah.
I'm here, and I will love you, and I will do what I can,
Well, and that's a big reason why I've gotten into this community and bounce around so much. So you'll see me in lots of
I
different
see you
YouTube
everywhere.
groups. Yeah, because there need to be light workers to help bridge the gaps, to
Yes.
help people come together and understand that while we all are different, we all have a lot in common too. And even if, say, I never set foot in another church again, I can respect and appreciate that you have that Christian background
That's your
because
source of
because
worship.
because exactly, and that's the way you want to worship, and I respect that. I
And I
don't.
think back on the witch thing, not to cut you
Yeah,
off, but we were talking about how that label, that stigma has come back to us as a community, as a group, and as an individual in our personal lives. And I think that's where what you were just saying and the point we're trying to get across, live and let live, some people call it, right?
yeah,
But it's like, for some reason, could I curse somebody if I wanted to? Sure. Sure, I could, but I know what that's going to put on me, and it better be worth it.
mm-hmm,
I can mix potions and do spells and work with crystals till the cows come home and never hurt another person or living thing or myself. But I think it's that dang word, that word witch, that throws everyone back into the 1600s, like Salem. I mean, witch trials were everywhere. To be like, burn her. You're suddenly accused of necromancy in my Christian,
right.
non-denominational Christian church for reading oracle. Not by the whole congregation, but by two people who I was like, what? Like, what? Do you even know what the definition of that is?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, if you really want to get technical on them, go back to the um, 500s AD and remind them that witch was a Celtic word for a wise person, whether you want to call them a
Really?
shaman or a spiritual leader. Yeah, and it wasn't until, and I can't remember um, the Pope's name, but basically the early Middle Ages when they took that term and turned it on its side to use it as a method of control of the women who were practicing as midwives and herbal healers
I
because
probably somewhere around Pope
they
Sylvester.
wanted that stake, that money to be going funneled towards the church rather than what they considered, the pagan background.
Isn't it the
So
same though
yeah,
with big pharma nowadays, where it's
it
like
is. Oh yeah.
if you say you're holistic, which I'm not, I take medicine when I have to, and in fact, I take maintenance meds every single day that help me stay on the straight and narrow path. I believe if you need
Hmm.
medication and you really need it, take it. I
Exactly.
remember I went to one rehab where I had like a severe toothache with that same tooth, and they were like, "Go pray it away." They wouldn't even give me a Tylenol, and I was like, "What is this?" But that reminds me what you just said of like, you couldn't be a healer because they wanted the money to go elsewhere. They didn't want these somewhat, I don't want to use the word poor, but somewhat less fortunate women who are making the money in this way, but really helping and knowing their stuff. Just like big pharma is like, they're trying to shut down all of the generic companies. And like my prescription costs, if I were to have to pay for it, about $7,000 per month just for the one script. But if you get a generic version, it comes to like $2,500. They're trying to shut that down. And that's kind of like in the financial way the church was trying to do to the healers. And it's unfortunate.
Absolutely. It is. And so because of that period of time, it's continually, it resurfaces every so often within society, especially in the U.S., that it's the stigma. It's, okay, we're going out and I'm not going to say all the things that they thought that we do during the Middle Ages, but
yeah, forget it.
If y'all know, y'all know.
What weren't we doing?
Exactly.
And who were we with?
No, it was the widow who also happened to be the midwife that helped women in their childbirth. But because she was a widow, she had her own property from her husband. And if they labeled her a witch, they could then torture her and throw her in jail and take all of her property. And it now belonged to the church.
If you were too good looking, you were burned at the stake. I recently learned that if you looked a certain way, you were labeled a witch if you did not accept the first husband that was given to you, like a prominent person in society, like a governor, or I'm just using that as an example, wanted his son to marry you.
What person they were.
Right. Yeah. And if you declined or denied, you were a witch. Any woman who could take care of herself. But I don't know the history enough, guys, because I'm just coming into realizing that this is what I am. I never put two and two together. But do you know, like, men were also persecuted back then? I don't know that they were burned at the stake.
It was few and far between.
But it did happen.
Men were persecuted, but the entire families, actually, men, women, and children, just depending on, because it was, and I'm not trying to push it all on the church, but because it was mandated by the church, it was a societal means of control and garnering wealth and power.
Well, the church was very influential. I mean, you know what I mean? And when you mentioned the Pope, I thought immediately of Pope Sylvester. I don't know if that's the Pope you're talking about, but I spoke on him a few videos back, way back, where I don't remember what the video was, but he like sold his soul to like a succubus, allegedly. And he made a lot of changes as far as really persecuting the same people he was said to be cohorting with in order to get the succubus to be the most powerful. I don't know. It was some weird, probably a legend, but these are the kinds of things that pop up around or popped up. And it's happening again where people just can't handle that word. And I'm tired of cringing every time I say it because I'm not harming anyone. Harm none is the Hippocratic Oath doctors take. But what did you say about it? Where did it come in?
Yeah, so it's called the Wiccan Rede, R-E-E-D. The Wiccan Rede is do as you will, harm none. The idea of paganism as Wiccan, as the Wiccan practice, came around, I want to say in the early 1980s. I'd have to look it up. That he wanted to impart to everyone what the basis of our practices as witches, as Wiccan were. That, do as you will means, if you want to go have ice cream, go have an ice cream. But don't punch the guy sitting next to you because he's sitting too close.
Because he's lactose intolerant,
I mean,
right?
It's simple. You're right. It breaks it down to its simplest thing. do as you will, harm none.
Yep.
You know, be
And that's
yourself. Don't harm anybody.
it blows
It
my mind because it's just like the Hippocratic Oath that the healers we trust and accept today take. And we can handle it when it's a doctor who's, back to my addiction. There's a song and it says, my drug dealer was a doctor. He tried to kill me for $1. And it's like, we're okay with this harm none type thing. But when
right.
it comes to that word, nobody believes it. And that's why I love you guys, because you guys are like, hey, can you help me with this? And I'm like, yes, here's what I can do. Let's do this. And that's why within the next 10 years, I want to have a spiritual retreat. I want to be able to make enough money to really start helping people. Because, to
Yeah.
do something like that costs money. But my end goal is to just bring people in, let them get spiritually cleansed and cleared and aligned,
Right.
and then go from there. So many people have attachments that they can't get aligned no matter what they do until they have the attachment removed, but they're unaware of the attachment because they don't want to consult somebody like me or you who's a witch and could tell them easily, your throat chakra's
Yeah.
blocked, dude. You're never going to be able to sing on stage again until you take care of this, because who are we? Because we didn't go to school. Somebody actually said that I should not be trusted reading Oracle because I was not educated enough to be what was it? What exactly did the person say? I was not educated enough, or I didn't have enough schooling or something to be credible, so that people should watch out for me when I give them readings. That's why when I do, like you guys will see when I bring out the monthly anytimes, I'm not shuffling in front of the camera and all that. Like if you're coming to my channel
Right.
for a reading, trust me that I'm going to give you the reading. If
Right.
not, there's a million other people. And it's not because I'm trying to be difficult. It's just that's what's easiest for me. That's the easiest way for me to do it. I see these YouTubers reading tarot and they are jumping through hoops and I'm like, I appreciate every single subscriber, but at the end of the day, the money helps. It's not the bottom line for me. I want to build something bigger. I want to do something bigger for the collective. I've been a selfish person my whole life. I wouldn't even say bordering on narcissistic. I was a complete and total narcissist in my addiction. So coming out of that and coming into all this and being accepted for who and what I really am has really changed my life. Like it's really changed me what I do here with you guys, what I do in my personal life. It's given me focus. It's given me understanding of why I've struggled through so much and so many things like addiction, like abuse, like, everything that most of us go through. And I just want to be able to bring people in. And it's so hard when you have people like that who come into the chat, get a reading from me. They're like, you're so awesome. And then I find out that they're telling people that I'm not credible because I didn't have schooling. So doctors are okay because they had schooling, but we're not okay because we learned ourselves. Or I don't
You know what they call a doctor that graduates at the bottom of his class, right?
know.
A doctor.
No. It is what it
Anybody,
is, right?
anybody can pick up a deck of cards, open it up, shuffle the cards, pull a card for someone, read them, what that card is about.
Yep.
There's no schooling that has to take place. What the schooling would be, if any, is learning how to go deeper with
Channel.
your own channeling ability. Exactly. Learning how to go deeper into your mind's eye, into your knowing, into your clear seeing. Um, and we all have that ability. It's a matter of, were we told that it was okay to practice, or were we told that we would be damned if we did something like that?
And did we believe it?
And did we believe it? Did we take it to heart? Did we take it to heart so much that it created a wound that has been there our whole life?
That's what happened to me.
And
And I
I
believe it's
carried
been
that
there
wound.
through
Oh, yeah.
several lifetimes, to be honest with you. I believe what
Yeah.
I'm doing is breaking generational hurt, non-acceptance,
Hmm.
the opposite of love. I don't even think that's hate, just it's something dark throughout my
Black.
lifetimes, where that's why I really want to find a credible past life regressionist, because I know that this is probably the first lifetime in a really long series of lifetimes where I've accepted this, because I'll tell you, it's as simple as I saw the movie The Craft when I was about 14, maybe a little younger. I immediately went to the local crystal shop, grabbed some crystals, grabbed some candles. I was all in. But the things I was able to immediately do freaked me out enough that I shut myself back down again. I didn't realize that not everybody can immediately pick up a card and channel a spirit, and that's, I already explained this to you guys. That's what I meant by that short video. I wasn't putting anyone down. I wasn't really talking about anyone specifically. I was just saying, I want people to come into this community and feel safe to be themselves, safe to talk. You see my chat. I am so proud of that chat Wednesday night. And even
you
tonight,
guys are great.
people come in and they're just like, I feel so welcome. That's what I need that for me, even more than I need it for you guys, because it shows me that I'm putting my energy in the right direction, but it was hurtful because I think it brought up, first of all, the trauma from my childhood, from not my mom. My mom was never scared of me. My dad and stepmom being afraid of me and punishing me for my abilities. And then being snubbed at school, being that weird. And like, it brought up all of this stuff of like, not good enough, shouldn't be doing this. I disappeared from personal readings for like 2 weeks, aside from the Wednesday night stream. And I was going through it. And I think that's a generational thing for myself.
Yeah. For myself as well. I mean, I recently had a person that I thought was a little more open-minded, but now this goes to, we all have our shadow work, all have our inner wounds. Okay, and whether it's from childhood or from 5 minutes ago, we all have those wounds. And I had made a post about honoring spirit and honoring nature. And basically, this person said that they felt like all people who call themselves witches were bad.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, and we're not going to say anybody's names. We're not
Yeah,
going to
no, of
talk
course
about
not.
that.
But I think I did see that. Yes.
But what I realized is, because I started crying after I read it, and it again goes back to that shadow work of where's that wound from? Because I respect that person still. I'm friends with that person still, but it made me cry. And I realized it was back from my youth and literally having rocks thrown at my head
Oh my gosh.
and being called a witch. And it wasn't because of my spiritual practice, it was because of my facial features.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. Oh, you have a witch nose. That was what they were
come
saying.
on.
No, I'm serious. That's what they
I'm
were
not
saying.
laughing because I don't believe you.
Yeah.
It's just
No,
so
I get it.
ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
Ghostdragonzw, I want to ask him to weigh in because he's like, I feel useless. I'm going to go. And we don't want him to go.
No, you're not. You need to
Just
speak
interject.
up.
Just jump
Well,
in.
I just don't like. I get yelled at when I interrupt people.
That's when I'm channeling. That's why, because
I will point my finger at you. Don't make me point my finger at you. You won't like what happens.
I got a finger too.
His middle name
actually,
is
I have a lot to say about all this.
I want to hear your thoughts on everything that we've been discussing tonight. You've got the floor, babe.
First of all, I love Pixie. I love your viewpoints. They're pretty much what I believe in a lot of ways. I'm a very versatile person. Take the fire, for instance, it just happened. Everybody else is having a hard time adapting to the situation, but for some strange reason, I adapt well in any situation. It doesn't take much for me to click right in. I credit that to the knowledge that I pick up on things very quickly. I see things very quickly. When it comes to the witchcraft, this world is changing very fast.
Oh yeah.
People are trying to catch up, especially people our age. And the young people, they think they're caught up, but they're really not. Sad but true. And I don't care how young or who you are, you still got so much to learn, just like we do.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
It's forever learning
the
experience.
the
Like,
the stigma of witchcraft and spiritualism all stems back to the power grid of the Catholic Church back in the Dark Ages. We don't have much information on the Dark Ages, thus the Dark Ages. Only few monks knew how to write. Only few monks kept Bibles and could read. So information was scarce. So what information you got was what the church said, hey, publicly, vocally, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, and this is bad. And it was about a power grab.
Hmm.
And it still is today. I think you're going to find that with the veil lifting and thinning, however you
sure
want to
is.
look at it, people are starting to wake up now. Some people say it's thinning. I say it's lifting. And I'm going to tell you why I say it's lifting. Because when something lifts, it can be lifted slowly. A veil will thin slowly, but when it lifts, more comes out of it.
Yeah.
When you lift the veil, everything floods out. People are seeing more and more things now. Um, the sad fact is that what you see on YouTube and all these things, there's a lot of fakes to compared to a lot
Ugh.
of real stuff. But you got to learn how to sort it out and know what to look for. Um, thus, the idea of witchcraft, Wicked, people are just now starting to realize that there's difference in these things. But
Hmm.
you still have you're like we said, like we were talking earlier before the stream. People have been stigmatized through the years with these ideas, and it's still kind of stigmatized in television up until recently. Now you're seeing more movies about witchcraft. You're seeing more
Hmm.
movies about spiritualism.
Being more accurately represented. That's
Right.
Absolutely.
the point of
Yeah.
that.
Yes. And you're
Yeah.
starting to see
Absolutely.
a little bit more of that door opening. And unfortunately, Hollywood is kind of rushing that door. And I honestly feel that
And I have
Hollywood is rushing that door. And you don't want to
for a
rush it.
reason.
Yeah. And you don't want to rush opening that door because that's when confusion sets in, misguiding sets in, the stigma of this and that. So you want to
And then
get
you
a
have the
feel.
liars where you have to watch out, who I'm not judging because I have no one to judge, but you do have people that are misleading others.
That's,
And it's really
yeah,
bad because when you're misleading others and telling them you're leading
Yeah.
them into the light or you're giving them
yes.
a message from spirit and there's no spirit there, you could destroy somebody that way. And I don't think people realize that. I think they're just having fun reading a card from the book. And,
Right.
as long as
But
you clarify that that's what you're doing in the beginning and
yeah.
nobody's
Yeah.
doing that.
And that's why it's important when you do these things, and even in your case, to state this is for entertainment purposes. The people that know the situation will be more apt to adjust to that.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's an ever changing world. We're becoming way more open, way too fast. Thus, the veil is lifting and things flushing is flooding out faster. I'm amazed. Pixie, I've watched you in chat. I know you've seen me stumbling around from room to
Oh yeah.
room. I get I'm they don't call me a ghost for a reason. A lot of times I'm there and people don't even know I'm there. Um, I make it a point to see every point of view. That's where I am. I look at all sides. I mean,
Same here.
you can't read a book cover to cover unless you look at the front and the back.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting that you know Gemma. When I met Gemma, I was amazed because her and Sean G, if you know who Sean G is from Chasing the
Hmm.
Truth,
Facing the truth.
I
Yep.
actually I actually opened up with him the first time I ever started talking about stuff. I mean, you can actually go back to his older stuff and see hear my phone calls when I
Uh huh.
did live with him. Um, I kept a lot of things quiet from my mom and dad for years. Mom knew little, Other than the graveyard
Moms
incident.
always know.
Well, Mom was
Yeah.
kind of weird about it, though. My mom, she was the one that turned me into horror movies and stuff like that. In fact, she was the first person to introduce me to Godzilla and Frankenstein and King Kong.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But it was, I don't think she really believed. I don't know of anybody in my family that has abilities on both sides. Nobody's ever said anything other than I've heard Fae stories. I've heard little stories here and there over the years. But the big thing has always been that I always felt like an outcast because ever since
What are your abilities? I don't mean to interrupt you, but since we talked about Lara's, you guys know most of mine.
Oh, yeah.
What would you don't have to label it if you don't have a label, but what would you describe? I mean, I've seen you at work. I've seen what you can do, but I think most people don't realize that aside from being a light worker, that you actually can. I know you can at least see spirit. I know you can at least know when spirit's there, and you have a definite connection that's different from a lot of people I've seen, and myself included, where you're much more able to immediately pick up on dark.
I have
where I have to search for it. You're like, wait a minute, that's happened several times.
Here's the thing. A long time ago, a lady that by the name of Miss Warren told me I was an observer and a watcher. And ever since I can remember, I've always seen stuff. It's always following other people. I've had direct contact with things, but most part I see things following other people. I have this strange ability to pick up on people real fast.
But I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to clarify because I have the ability to see people's attachments that you can get rid of or sever or do what you need to do. You have something a little bit different.
Yes,
you see the darker entities that actually follow people, not that are connected to them like I would see, but like
when we were at the hospital, when I was with you the day at the hospital, and I saw them sitting there on the bench, and I told you two of them had things standing behind them.
Right. And that same day, my counselor at my doctor's office actually pulled me into her office and told me that I had some crazy, large, huge, massive man standing behind me, presenting himself to her in shadow like this, like just like daring something to come through. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to clarify because I don't think people know this kind of stuff about you. You're kind of there in the background. You let me shine a little bit, but
I do have a tendency to pick up on the dark stuff really fast.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of the being an observer and a watcher is I was told not to warn people, but I had to do it sometimes. But I do have this real canny ability to see into the darkness too. I can actually see into the darkness. You couldn't put me in a black room and I could walk around like a blind man that's been in that same room for years.
Well, I just wanted to give you some FaceTime too, because we kind of did. It was just so interesting because I talk to you guys in chat, but on Wednesday nights I can't type much because I'm, and you guys have my number, but a lot of the time, especially with this new project, like I literally am sitting in front of my computer working, typing for 8 hours a day. I had to get those glasses that block the blue light because I was getting massive headaches, and that's just this week. I'm working on the 4th book. So a lot of times I'll have my ringer off. I'll just look and I'll be like, okay, that also tires my eyes. I have perfect vision as far as my human vision. It's 20/20. But it just, I don't know. It might even be the house because the house is so haunted and so there's so much.
We've got a couple things there.
I haven't gotten rid of, I've gotten it at bay, but I haven't been able to completely. And I think it's literally sucking me dry because when I lived in the other house, I was go, go, go. My mom, people are like, do you ever stop? Here, I'm like, got to get this done. And I love writing, being able to write for a living. That's my dream come true. And I can't.
Welcome to being a claircognizant, dear.
Oh my gosh, right? Is that what it is?
From everything that I'm learning, because in a lot of ways I'm the same way, that's exactly, very stereotypical of what a person who is claircognizant will be like. In your case, Stephen, I had to look at my notes a little bit because I wanted to make sure I had the right word. Clairsentient is what describes what you were talking about best. Um, Being able to feel the physical sensations and emotions extremely deeply, being able to sense and feel what's around you, be it light energy, dark energy,
I'm in tune all the
emotions,
time.
happiness, sadness. Exactly. You're a walking radar.
Yep.
You pick up everything
Yep.
that's going on around you. Whereas you're picking up on the um, beings and the commotion and the energy and the noise. You
Yep.
know what's there. He feels what's there. You know what's there. And so while the two cross over with each other, there are subtle differences in how you perceive that information.
When you see us together, like actually in the same room, even the energy of the house shifts where
Oh, it was
really
amazing when I was
nobody's
in.
Oh
being
yeah,
fed
I
off
bet.
of when we're together. When we go places, we'll both recognize things. Like you said, he'll notice and then I'll see it.
Mhm.
But it's like we are like this impenetrable wall, whatever mine and his abilities are, whatever they're called, when put together, and also the fact that we have a soul connection as well from past lives and future lives, um, it's really something special. And I feel like I would have that and he would have that, at least to a degree, with a lot of you guys, which is why come this spring
I
or
feel that too.
summer, we want to get the cabins in the Pine Barrens and just split the costs and just barbecue. At nighttime, we'll have maybe a seance because we'll have witches there who will know how to do that the right way without harming. And we can hunt the Jersey Devil and we can stream it all.
Yep.
Because I want to see what so many of us can do when put together. Like how much, like we might even be able to shift the entire vibration for South Jersey if we really wanted to and put our minds to it. And I'm not being facetious or funny at all.
Oh
I
no.
literally think we could do some major damage in the best possible way if we were all together and focusing on that. So I
Oh,
can't
big.
wait for that. It's happening one way or the other, whether it's going to be May or June. And I'm just going to put it out there like, look, this is how much the cabins are,
I
how
hope
many
I'm
people are
home
actually
back in my
coming.
house.
Let's
Back in
do
our
it.
house.
Ooh.
Pixie, yeah, you would freak out when I first came to that house, her house.
Mhm.
It knew I was there,
Yeah, it sure
and it
did.
literally ran and hid. It literally ran and hid. And when we were in the same room together, a lot of time, you could feel that it didn't want to be there. You
Right.
could tell
You could,
that it just, nope.
my mom even
Mhm.
said it today. She was like, why is this thing always knocking on my door? Because I have my room, I share like closet with my mom. Like my closet's here, her closet's there. So we can hear kind of what's
Mhm.
going on. She has a smaller house than mine. But it's very old. It's in a very old shore town and it has some antiques that came with the place. So we
Sure.
know what happens. There's actually a literal mirror shaped like a planchette that came from an old abandoned church that's
Right.
right there.
Right.
And I believe that's the source of the bad energy in here. But she's like, why is it always knocking on my door and roaming around the hallway? Because the 3 bedrooms, mine, my mom's, and Damien's, are all upstairs with the bathroom. And then I come down here, it's the office, living room, kitchen, another bathroom, and dining room. I said, because something's keeping it out of your room now. Because it used to come into her room. My mom would wake up screaming. I told you guys that story, but one time she's like, it's
Yeah.
you're keeping it out. Because before I came to stay here for a little bit, my mom said that she used to tell it, she'll be here in a week, so go ahead. And the activity would get tremendously worse. But once I'm in the house, it's not completely gone, but just my presence, just my light. I think I activate Damien, who activates my mother.
Mhm.
And it just, but when he came in, you could feel that it's so
Oh,
hard
I
to
felt
explain.
it
Like you could
immediately.
feel, like when you feel tension between two people, you can cut with a knife. It was like this
Oh
thing
yeah.
wanting to just come at us, but for some reason it couldn't. And I think it was
I
because
told her it was scared
the
of me.
4 of us are combined light.
Think of it like chaining together batteries. If you have one battery all by itself, it's only going to do so much. But if you put those batteries in tandem to each other, energy energetically connected, you are going to increase magnificent
Yeah.
energy
And Edna
in
said
that
we would
space.
blow the roof off.
You blow the
We
roof
would,
off,
too.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
they're all
Yeah.
telling you, you're beautiful when you made the comment. I just want you to know everyone's, how everyone's so supportive, and you really are. And I
You're
love,
so
I
sweet.
talked to you behind the scenes about your hair because I want to go blue and pink, but I'm afraid
Not
to
too
bleach
fine.
again.
Yeah,
So,
it doesn't look quite as purple in here because
oh, I
the
love it.
lights are kind of
I
yellow.
Do
love
purple.
it.
I was thinking about doing
I
strawberry.
want to get all my piercings back. I want to get a ton more tattoos, and I want to do a color hair. I'm holding off on it because I'm trying to be respectful of someone else's wishes. But then the other part of me says, like, I'm almost 40 years old. You know what I mean? It's that thing.
Right.
It's the same
It
thing
comes
with
with
women
time.
that live. Like, how much are you willing to accept from someone else, or being kind and offering love? If someone comes up and you give them a hug and they punch you in the face, your natural human reaction is going to be to punch them back or hurt them or do something. The thing with light workers is we do, believe it or not, guys, and it's happened to me. I've been punched in the face, stood up and said, "Are you done? Can we," like, literally, we do have the ability to turn that around and still at the very least walk away, even if it's in our anger. And this isn't like, walk away from violence and all. This is talking spiritually, energetically, the things that lift our spirit literally is things like that. I remember my sister was drunk. She started a fight. The girl swung at my sister. I jumped in front of my sister, got hit the ground, jumped up and said, "Can we just stop?" I didn't care that I had gotten hit. I was just like, okay, the person got it out of their system. And I always thought I was so weird because I couldn't hold a grudge no matter what someone did. I just couldn't. It's normal for us, but we do have to work on it and work on ourselves to be able to process, because that's literally putting up with abuse, right? And I'm not recommending that anyone do that on a regular basis. I'm simply saying there are times when it's so incredibly hard to show grace and love and kindness, but those are the times that we're called, no matter what you believe in religiously, we are called by our own spirit and higher self to be the bigger person. And that's where we learn the most lessons, when we can realize that how other people behave toward us has to do nothing to do with us. It has to do with them. And when we can finally understand, guys, that's when we learn grace, and that's when we spiritually evolve. I think what's happening in the world too, and this is just my opinion from things that I've been told from spirit, but more like what I see when I go out every day and just look at people. I see people at a soul level. So to me, beauty is so much different. That's why, like, when people comment on my looks and I don't know them, I get a little frustrated because I'm like, you can't really see me, but okay. But I think what's happening is we're now activating, and we're now understanding more than ever, like, this is the dawn of a time where, like Ghost Dragon said, the veil's lifting, where light workers are coming into our own and learning about unconditional love, grace, kindness. Grace is a word I use a lot because the concept of it sometimes is just really hard to understand. And I think so many of us are being activated and coming into this that we really do have the power to change things for the better. I think the sleepers, and I call them that, because they are not light workers and they're not activated and they're not interested and they're not open, by no fault usually of their own. They're usually just newer souls who haven't evolved enough yet to start understanding this kind of stuff. But when there's more of them putting that energy out than there is of us putting our energy out there, like literally beaming it out, like I tell you guys, right, they overtake. And that's what happened in 2022. March, April of 2022 is supposed to be this major shift. Larry, you know that. Stephen, you know that. Major shift for light workers. We were supposed to come into, financial wealth.
The shift still happened, just not as big as it was supposed to be.
Yeah, it was on such a smaller scale. And I believe, I always say this, the first thing I want to acknowledge, Aunt Edna said, I had a lot of anger to get rid of from childhood. My biggest accomplishment was forgiveness, pure forgiveness. And I think we went through some of that with you in the beginning of my reading, especially with the Native American deck that I have, Angels and Ancestors. But man, I lost it, and I had such a good thought. I remember real quick, Lara, and I'm going to give you the floor. So one time I channeled I talked about this before, but I channeled a woman who was back in like 2003 or 2004. She was murdered by her husband, allegedly, and she was almost about to give birth. They had this big thing. It was huge news. It was in California. I don't want to say her name. And I channeled her. And I don't remember why I did it. I think I'd heard someone on YouTube did it, so I tried to do it to see if I could. And
Sure.
she was saying how I was like, is he going to go free? Because he's on death row, but they're talking about, a new trial and he might be innocent. And I know he's not innocent because she told me the whole story with her own mouth. But I'm like, how is it possible that this is going to happen? He might go free. She's like, it's not supposed to be. It's not contracted in that way because in a past life, she was a man who had mental illness issues. And her husband in this life was her little sister. And they loved each other so much, but she ended up snapping and murdering the little sister along with the rest of the family and going and dying in a mental, it was happened in like the 1800s at that point.
Gotcha.
And she said, it's not contracted for that. It's not supposed to be. But if enough of the collective believes in his innocence, he will be let out and the whole contract is dissolved. And then we have to do it all over again next time.
Yeah.
That's the power of the collective. What I'm trying to say, we're like,
oh, absolutely,
it can shift like that. Go ahead, Lara.
From a Christian point of view, the power of prayer, the coming together of thought and mind to create a reality, to create an outcome, be it positive or negative. It goes to modern science and the idea of quantum entanglement, that when we think about something, we are literally on an energetic wave, on a sine wave, putting out signals from our brain. And the more people getting together and their same thoughts, putting out the same brainwave, begins to create a ripple in our reality and change that reality. To change it to, oh, this person is now receiving healing. They're now feeling better. Or just the opposite. Oh, this person is guilty. They must be guilty. Doesn't matter what's going on. They're guilty. And they end up going to prison. And so that's exactly the same type of situation with him being potentially released because, like you said, the collective mind was putting out that energy wave in thought form that this is what reality is. And everything we have, everything we own, everything we see, everything we do started out as an energy wave thought form. We receive the idea, we figure out how to implement the idea. Sometimes that inspiration comes from a higher source. Call that source whatever you want.
Exactly.
Whatever makes you happy doesn't bother me a bit. But that information comes in. I call it divine inspiration. And then you create the object. And now it's a part of physical reality, not just spiritual reality.
And I want to acknowledge Be Kind said, what Lara is saying is so powerful, everyone. We create what appear to be small ripples when we are compassionate, kind, etc. to everyone. Even in the smallest way, we create a ripple beyond the act. And that's so true. Do you know how many times I've been sitting there, and I was just talking about it, and I cry to this day. I mean, it probably happened 3 days ago. It's like a normal thing because I'm doing so much shadow work where I'm like, I'm unlovable. The minute someone gets to know the real me, they're not going to love me anymore. I my abandonment issues, my daddy issues, all these things come up. And I look in the mirror and I just sometimes just want to like cut my face or something like so people can really see me. Do you know what I mean? But then I remember that kindness, compassion to self is just as important, because we literally shine so much brighter. Literally, if you could see it, you know, most of us can't, but some can, or some can sense it when we take care of ourselves, you know. And it is the same nut slap with negative vibrations. Lotus Girl says, I love getting a download. When more people understand what a download is, that's when we're really going to start making changes. I try to explain it.
And it's all a matter of terminology.
I want to
A
say
download is inspiration. It's that divine thought. No matter, you know, what language, what verbiage you use for it, it's that instantaneous knowing.
Aha,
Divine
Eureka.
inspiration.
Yeah.
Yes, I've always called it my aha moment.
When I get
I know what to do.
Yeah.
When I get downloads, I get a lot. And I mean a lot. And you know, I think we talked about this on SOR one time. I get so much comes into my head sometimes that I feel like it's going to explode. And it's information that I do a lot of research. I read, I do all this stuff. But then again, I get this information that I don't know where it comes from. And I get a ton of it. And I mean a ton of it. And there are times I honestly feel like I'm going to explode. And I don't know what to do with it. So I literally have to take a month, every 2 months, and really find somewhere to dump it.
So Lara, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No. We might be able to help you, because I think Lara and I are on the same page. Go ahead. I want to hear you.
So one of the things that my mother actually came up with this for me to help me when I was getting information like that as a kid is narrowing the bandwidth. Okay. So literally in a kind of a meditative state, whatever makes you calm, whatever gives you that calm, peaceful feeling. You know, if it's sitting and reading a book, okay, and then you put the book down in your lap and you kind of close your eyes. Okay, I'm going to think about all the information that's coming in, and I'm going to see it as tentacles coming into my head or wavy lines coming into my head. And I'm going to slowly, one by one, if it's too much, I'm going to unplug those one at a time. Okay. And I'm not getting rid of them. I'm setting it off to the side until I've narrowed my focus down onto just a few things that I can then understand and interpret. You can also just do the same thing in imagining it as rays of light. Rays of light. That those rays of light coming in then begin to come together into one cohesive tone, one cohesive thought form that you can then channel that information through and write it down, journal it. I don't care how stupid it sounds.
Just get it out.
Whatever you write, you can write. I saw my dog taking a poop on the neighbor's birthday cake. I have no idea what that means, but I'm going to write it down. And you'll be surprised how that helps you discern later what that information is.
It's funny because I noticed, like in this situation, I got a little aggravated because I was adjusting and nobody else wasn't. I also realized at that point that I was also getting a lot of feed.
Because you're more open, because you're not. You're so used to being
connected. You are wide open, honey.
And I realized
I do have a suggestion for you too. Go ahead.
I realized the other day that I had created a filing system in my brain. And if you ever seen, what is it? There's a movie where,
Dr. Sleep?
No, there's another movie, the Stephen King movie about an alien that comes in, and the guy goes into his mind, he literally has a filing system.
They do it in Dr. Sleep too, Stephen King.
Yeah, he does that.
Shining Part 2, where
Yeah.
And I have this filing system that I now realize that I can go to and file everything. So it's not as bad now, but it's just sometimes that end feed is sometimes overwhelming. But I'm learning how to
turn the dial down.
To turn it down a little bit. It's like when she says, well, you can block what you see. I keep trying to do it, but I keep getting this, no, Steve, you're supposed to see this
Right.
kind of thing.
And so
stop.
the other thing that will help is, and I'll be honest, I've lived this kind of stuff my whole life, and I'm still getting used to it, feeling
Yes.
weird to talk
Mhm.
out loud to
I do it
spirit.
all the time. Do it.
Okay,
Oh,
I do
really?
it,
I love
but I
it.
don't do it in general
You
as a
do have to be
practice.
careful who you do it around and when,
I do, but I
Exactly.
do it.
And why is that lady saying weird things to nobody? Um, is literally asking your guides, your guardians, those
Yes.
who watch over you to turn the volume down.
Spirit team. Yeah.
It's like, right now I'm overwhelmed. Could you slow down so that I can get the
That's one thing I
information
haven't done.
I
I've
need?
just gotten so
Yeah.
And
used to it.
it's just, I have noticed that um, since about 2019, my clairaudience has gotten stronger.
Uh-huh.
And so when I get clairaudience, what I will get is the tones in the ears. Now I have 24/7 tinnitus, tinnitus. So I
Okay.
have the ringing in
Tinnitus.
my ears all the time from childhood issues.
But a lot of
But
clairaudience
in,
do have that.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. It's very common. Um, but I'll get what I equate to a tuning fork being struck and then put right up
Ooh.
to my skull. And I'll hear that "ooh" tone, right? And it'll be one side or the other. And it may be a mid frequency or a higher frequency. And so over the last couple of years working with Sarah, I've been learning how to discern what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And discernment is definitely something our community needs to um, work with and work on. And that's just understanding and interpreting. How do we
Gemma
understand
will
and
tell you.
interpret these messages? And so learning that when I hear this tone, they're generally actually giving me information on a subconscious level. So I may not know what that information is at this particular moment, but it's like being plugged in and you're downloading from a computer. And that information is coming in, and then I can pull up the file later and figure it out.
For what I do. It's just sometimes
And I've found that if I literally, even if it's a whisper, say it out loud, because often it'll happen when I'm trying to go to sleep, and that's another common one for clairaudience, is getting these downloads when you're trying to lay down and turn your brain off. And I ask, would you just turn the volume down a little bit? I know you're trying to give me the information, but please just back off a little bit and turn the volume down.
Like I say when I'm reading, like you
And
need to back up, respect the
yes,
body you're using or you cannot use it. That's what I was going to
exactly.
say really quick. I put it in the chat because I didn't want to forget. When that happens to me, I mean, I'm a medium, so it is a little different. But when that happens to me, when things just start piling and piling and piling in, I know that there is a message for someone, probably not
Exactly.
me, that I need to. So I start writing. And sometimes I look back and it looks like complete and total nonsense. Like, what is going on?
Right.
But when I go into meditation with my guides, I can understand so much clearer. And that writing thing, that's been happening with me for a long time. I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's called automatic writing, honey.
Automatic
I do
writing.
it all the time.
I've
Then
been
I
doing that my
do it all
entire
the
life.
time.
And
Yeah,
I didn't know
I
until
didn't know.
4 years ago that
I've
it was
been
a
doing
thing.
it for years and I didn't know it. Yeah,
Doing it
I
right
want to
now.
yeah,
see what Anna has to say here. Anna's been
yeah,
saying
please.
a lot and really sharing a lot of her personal experiences. And I just want to say, when it comes to your ancestors, I did put it in the chat. If you believe that it's fear that's stopping you from making contact or communicating, first of all, that means something is stopping you, but it also means your ancestors need to communicate with you. I really hope you find a way through meditation, through calling on your angels or all the archangels, it doesn't matter, calling on your spirit team to help bring your ancestors in. And you know what I would do? I would light the right colored candle, which I don't know off the top of my head, but you can definitely Google it, and turn the lights off, the candlelight, and call your spirits in. Spirit loves natural light, like candlelight. This artificial stuff that I have here is not conducive to like a seance. But Aunt Edna says, for instance, I could see you having a car accident, just like I was there watching it happen, but I couldn't tell you where or when the accident will happen. I can relate. I see you guys shaking your head. What happens to me is when I close my eyes to try to rest, I will see random people being killed, getting hit by cars, fighting. I see the hand. I don't hear it, but I see the hands going. And when I open my eyes, it's gone. I don't know who these people are. I don't know where they are, but I know it's all stuff that's going to happen. And it's messages I'm supposed to get out, but I have no idea how. I don't know what the heck is going on. Yeah.
98% of the time, you're not meant to know.
But I feel like the message is supposed to be given.
Or you're not necessarily supposed to give the message. You're supposed to receive the message and the information, and it will either make sense at the time that it's needed, or it will allow you to then, in the future, give support to that person.
And it does come back around in the sense that I have deja vu like 40 times a week. I believe personally that deja vu is connected to those closed eye daydream things I have. I call them daytime dreams. And I also believe, though, very strongly, and I believe I know this for a fact because my main spirit guide, his name is Aaron, told me once that deja vu is actually when you're in the moment, your soul and spirit is remembering, writing that moment into your chart. So it tells you you are right where you are supposed to be at exactly that right time, because it's not a false memory. It's actually a soul memory. Your soul's like, and for that split second, you remember that you wrote that in. Whatever, because it's always the smallest, dumbest little things, right, that we experience.
Think of it like before you enter your body, you're able to look at a movie of what your life is, and significant or insignificant moments that will pass. And occasionally, the energies are right that it's like a guitar string being plucked. And that vibration comes through, and you hear it. Oh, yeah, I recognize this.
Yeah.
But you can't place from where. And it's like you say, it's because you have already seen it before. To some degree.
I have deja vu all the time.
Sorry.
It's like a daily thing sometimes. Yeah, and it's like, I know I'm supposed to be here. I know this is supposed to happen.
But what the hell am I supposed to do with it?
Right. Yeah. And like you said, I think sometimes we're not meant to know. We're going to end in 9 minutes, guys. I wanted to go longer because this is amazing, but I do have to film Monday's video.
We can do this again anytime,
you are
babe.
welcome. Yeah, I'm going to see if anyone else wants to come on next week. If not, it's going to be you. I really love the flow of the conversation. I love Steven getting involved. Wednesday night is different because I have so much else going on. So if he says something while I'm reading, I lose it. And then I have to go and catch it, So that's why he's so quiet. People are like, oh, you're a B word. You crack the whip on him.
Not. You hear some of the things I hear.
I'm like, I want to show Be Kind this really fast. And then, Lara, I'm going to let you go out. So Be Kind gave me this Lemurian seed crystal. And I just want to show you, honey, that it's breaking open. It sits on my altar, except for when I charge it on the charging plate. But it's actually breaking open. And these seeds, this is authentic. And these seeds are meant to hold the secrets of Lemuria when they put everything into the crystals before they became the dolphins or whatever it was they did. I don't know the whole story. Right. But this means that the information in this crystal is going to start downloading to me very soon. Do you see that crack in it? That's not because there's anything wrong with it. It's a beautiful, authentic crystal. When crystals break open, that means either they've done their job, you've used them, they've done their job, and you could keep them, or get rid of them in running water on your property or off. Yes, be kind. She said, oh my God, it will help you so much. That's my point. I noticed it the other night and I was like, oh my gosh, look at that. This could be the answer for me to some things that some answers I've been waiting on for quite a while. And I look and this thing's cracking open. And I'm really excited about it, guys. I really, really am. So Lara, why don't you say whatever else you want to say? I'll bring you out, I'll bring Steven out, and I'll bring the chat out. And I'm so glad you guys are having an amazing time because I want to have as many of you guys on as possible. Smoochie, yes, actually you can. As soon as that happens, I can send you the piece that breaks off. Absolutely. Go ahead, Miss Lara.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that part of the reason, part of my journey that I decided to jump on with you is to help lend strength to other people.
Yes.
That even despite my fears, even despite my wounds, that I can be brave, I can open up, I can talk, I can maybe lend comfort to
and be
somebody.
Yourself, Lara, right?
And just be myself. Yeah, exactly. Now, there have been interviews, I've done a couple with a friend on a different channel where I'm there in a little bit more official capacity, kind of like how you are when you're doing readings on Wednesdays. So my mannerisms might be a little bit different. But like I said before we started, I wanted this to just be friends sitting down on the couch, having coffee, and sharing our thoughts and views and supporting each other. And if I can help others feel comfortable in their own skin and want to be able to ask the questions and understand each other and speak out, then
you
I'm
are such a
happy.
beautiful
So,
soul. I am so, Nutslap. I knew someone was going to say it. Nutslap said, and Lara has a real bookshelf, Gemma. The first thing I said to Lara was, is that real? Like, because this was supposed to be big enough that it would look real. And you know what, Nutslap? One day I'm going to have a room full of bookshelves,
yes, you will.
floor to ceiling, and you're not going to be invited. No boys allowed. One day, guys, we're building dreams here, but when the dreams go beyond self, that's when we know that we've made it. Lara, I love you. You're a beautiful soul. Keep in touch this week. I'm gonna see who else wants to come on, if anybody, and I would just love to have someone on every week. You're always welcome here if you ever want to jump on. And definitely, if no one else wants to, I will extend the invitation again because I really feel like everyone's having a great time. Larry, you're amazing. I knew it, but tonight you confirmed it. Smoochie says fake bookshelves matter. someone said
yes,
this
they do.
Awesome.
Yes,
everyone's
one of my idols was Mae West. Way back turn of the century, had a wonderful saying: "If you got it, flaunt it. If you ain't, fake it."
I love it. Yes.
We make our reality. You have created something behind you that will manifest into your reality.
I agree.
And with that, love, light, blessings. Stay out there and have fun.
All right. Love you. Thank you. Oh my God, she is such a beautiful soul. Be Kind said, this has been so amazing. I'm thankful that Spirit led me here. And Anna said, awesome chat tonight, as always. Anyone that wants to come on, you don't have to come on as video. You can, you have a little picture there or just a blank screen and you can just do audio. So I know a lot of people are self-conscious about being seen. You don't ever have to be, but please email me or text me if you're interested in next Thursday's stream. This was amazing. I didn't know how it was going to go with a third person because I talk so much, but I'm proud of myself. I listened intently. I let the conversation flow. I didn't just wait for my turn to speak. And these are all things that I'm working on in myself, guys. Running the whole show on Wednesday, never stopping talking for 3 to 4.5 hours. It's like, I'm so used to it, but you guys are so amazing. Be Kind. It's so great to see you coming in again. Jarvis, everyone that's always here supporting us, guys. Love you so much. Steven, do you have anything else to add?
Just much love and respect to you all. Please have a wonderful night. Have a good weekend.
I'm
And
going
we'll see
to.
you
I'm
Wednesday.
sorry, I thought you were not. See what I mean?
No, I'm not. No. Rambling.
So sorry.
I love it when you ramble. See, that's what draws me to you is your ramblings. I just love the rambling.
Lara said, kisses for Ghost, kisses for you. Once I'm through what I'm going through, I will do some checking to see if I can jump on, if it will help. Yes, Blue Cross will
We
do
would
let me
love
know
to
when
have
you're
you.
ready. What I'm going to do is just go in my schedule and just start a list of people and just start like booking you guys as if you're talent or
Yeah.
something.
Because Blue,
Yeah.
I got questions. And I'm
Peace,
sure
love.
you've got questions too.
Peace, love, and white light. So if you want to come on, either text or email me, guys. I'm gonna go film Monday's content, so I have that, and I look forward. I think February, but maybe it's going to be more like March. I'm going to start the anytime readings. Gemma's the real deal. Word to your mother. I almost said word bird, but I said word to your mother. I don't know what's happening right now. Okay. I am all hopped up on Red Bull and blueberry smart water. Okay. All right. I love you guys so much.
And gonna have rice pudding.
And I'm going to have rice pudding before bed. I always have 2 Cozy Shack rice pudding cups every single night before bed. Every night. That's where the mom bod comes in. Guys, I love you so much. Love, light, peace, blessings, information on how to donate, information on my books, information on the wish list, and my email address down there if you want to be on the show. I think this is going to be a really good thing. Got to get some clarity on what I can and can't discuss. So whatever you got, don't get your hopes up yet. You email me or text me when you're ready and we can discuss that.
Sure, we can use code.
Yeah, and YouTube has a lot of rules, but there are kind of ways around them as long as you're being respectful. And their main thing is like conspiracy theory. You can't really talk about. You can't talk about like the vid. And there are certain words you're not allowed to say. Other than that,
he's more worried about the things he can't talk about with the government.
I'm going to go film the content, guys. Thank you so much. Lara, thank you. You made this stream so much more interesting. We made it a full 2 hours finally. Jules, that's okay. I totally understand. I'm checking emails now. I know Perfect Imperfection. Jules, I think you emailed me, so I didn't forget you guys. Lotus Girl, I still have your text. Busy on some majorly amazing projects for my life. So
look who else just popped in. Sin just popped in on you too.
Oh, hey, Sin. I'm ending. You came at the end. Yeah, we've been here 2 hours and I still have more work to do. I love you, Aunt Cindy. And yeah, good night, everybody. I feel so bad. I feel bad now. That's my aunt, Sin, who I was named after. She's my favorite. No, it's okay. I'm glad you're here. It's so weird, or maybe not, that I was thinking about how you used to come into the Wednesday night streams and I hadn't seen you in a while just today before I did this stream. And then you popped in. So that was pretty cool. But I'll talk to you soon. And I do love you. And I love all of you guys. Just do your best to be your best selves. And remember that the way someone treats you has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. And you can always give light and love and grace, even if the person is horrible, because it's about you. It's not about them. All right, guys. And that's a hard lesson to learn. It's one I'm really working hard on, offering grace to people who don't treat me so well, and loving them from afar. So that's why I'm kind of in that zone all the time with you guys lately. All right, I'm going to end it now and get to work. Love you guys. Have a great night. And I will see you Monday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern with the pre-recorded content in chat. Bye.